Ladies and gentlemen, it is Wednesday, 3 p.m. It is time for an Investing Bros live show. But because it's Wednesday, you know what that means? That means we are joined by Caleb Franzen coming on the show today. We got a lot of great topics to talk about. Cannot wait to get T. Shroom's thoughts, to get Caleb's thoughts. But the topics we're going to be talking about today, other than just covering the basis of what crypto is doing, of course, many of you know the big news today. There's two really big stories, but the biggest news coming from court. The SEC, did they score a win against Coinbase? What's actually happened there? There's some misdirection happening on the internet, so we're going to help break down for you what exactly is happening. Did the SEC win? Did Coinbase win something? The court case is not over. That's the big story, though. We'll break it down for you. We're also going to talk about Gary Gensler as a whole and his relationship with Congress. How secure is his job when he's constantly misleading and confusing everybody that he works for, and that is the Congress? So we're talking more about the job security for Gary Gensler. We'll also break down Fidelity applying for an Ethereum ETF. So a lot of stuff, including the SEC today. And to kick it all off, the other topic, another big story of the day, massive news in the AI world for crypto as we see a merge between three of the top AI tokens all coming together for one called ASI. What does this mean for the future of crypto prices? What does it mean for the future of AI? We're going to break all of that down and more. If you are excited, make sure go ahead and smash that like button before we get in here. With that said, though, I am joined by my normal co-host T. Shroom and our special Wednesday guest, Caleb Franzen. Gentlemen, how are we feeling today?
Better than I deserve, Tim. Caleb, how are you?
Doing very good, guys. Good to see you as always.
Very good.
Sweet.
Very good.
Awesome.
He's got a nice slick back today.
Yeah.
He's got that click.
Look, this is recently showered Caleb. You know, I was rushing. I had to look my best, you know, so the hair's just getting longer and longer. We got to do what we got to do.
Oh, so they have showers in Europe. All right, quote of the day here. if you're going through hell, keep on going. What do you think about that one there?
Yeah. I mean, push through. It's it's darkest right before the dawn, right? So you got to keep pushing on through. What do you think, Caleb? Would you like that quote?
Very much so. I'm reminded of, it's almost like a cartoon of like the guy who's underground with a pickaxe, like kind of digging a tunnel, and then he quits. But just on the other side, like a few feet away, is all the gold or the diamonds, whatever he's trying to get, you know? So this is another kind of extrapolation on top of that.
I love it.
Yeah. Now, Caleb, I really hope that this does not offend you because it's not an offensive. It's a compliment.
Let's hear it.
But I do want to say you look like potentially you could be the villain coach of the rival team on a Mighty Ducks video. Like you're a hockey coach from somewhere in Europe and you're really bad. You're going to teach your kids really dirty moves, but it's all to win the championship at the end of the day. Because you always say one of your favorite quotes, and I heard this recently, when you're going through hell, keep on going. That's the motto you tell your team. When you need to break an ankle or two, just get it done, you know?
Caleb, have you played hockey? Are you a hockey guy?
No. I grew up competing in tennis.
Okay.
I had this flow for a little bit when I was playing tennis, but then I think when I was 14, this is the longest my hair has been since I was like 14 years old. So, you know, it is what it is. My hair should not be the topic of conversation right now, guys. We got to talk about crypto or, you know, we got to spread the alpha here.
You cannot bring on those luscious locks and have us not discuss them. That's just that's unfair to us for you to do that to us. But yeah, let's get in here. We got a lot to talk about. Let's really quickly, T-Shirt, let's break down the markets very fast and get into some of our topics because the topics will bring up price action. So no, we're not going to jump into TA. We're going to go right into the news. Let's go ahead and share my screen here, T-Shroom. Really quick, Bitcoin down a little bit more than 2%. It was just down closer to 68,000 as a whole. Very interested to hear what Caleb thinks about where we could go the lowest. I have a thought, but I'm interested what he says. Ethereum takes a little bit of a splash, down almost 3%, back below 3,500. Let's see what we have going on here. BNB coming in here. Well, I'm looking at the 7-day here. Let's scoot back over to 24. Got a little mixed up there. It's bullish on the 7-day. Down 1.48%. Solana takes a nice 4% spill. Same with XRP. Dogecoin looks to be our only bullish coin within the last 24 hours. So something's going right over there. Cardano taking almost a 4% spill as well. Same as AVAX. Let's take a look here at our biggest gainers and losers because I knew there was some big gainers. You might even see this coin behind me on my screen. Mantle up 32%, but down almost 6% in the last hour. I think at one point today, this was flashing closer towards 52%.
Yep.
for Mantle in the last 24 hours. So big day. Out of curiosity, before we move on, T-Shroom or Caleb, any idea why? Like, are you guys in the Mantle communities? You guys know what's bringing a big splash today?
No, I was not able to find that. There's a lot of news ricocheting around right now. It's a hype day. You know, we're going to digest it as well as we can. But no, I'm not on the loop on that one. Caleb, are you?
Nope, out of my purview for sure.
Gotcha. Well, let's look at some other big winners today. We got a layer one up here. Sui up still 12% despite being down almost 2% in the last hour. Now, two of the three coins we're going to talk about later when it comes to AI, SingularityNet and Fetch, both up in the last 24 hours. They've been cooling off. Earlier today, both of these were closer to 20% to the upside. And Ocean Protocol at one point was up to 32%. It's not a top 100 coin, so it's not going to register here on our biggest gainers or losers in the top 100. It's sitting right outside, but big news, obviously, for them. If we're wondering why those are top gainers, that is exactly why. Ondo taking a nice little rally. Now, Ondo is one you're shorting currently here at T-Shroom, correct, in our competition?
I believe so. I believe that's true.
So
let me pull that up.
Not a great day for you. We'll get into that a little bit later in the show. Let's take a look at our biggest losers and then get into some of these stories here. KuCoin continues to be a top loser, of course, with the breaking news coming yesterday that they are under investigation from the DOJ for criminal activity. Now, should it be criminal activity? It's a different question. But the fact is, they probably will lose that, and they probably will get hit with a very hefty penalty. We'll see if KuCoin can continue. Beam is another big loser here in the last 24 hours. Near Protocol, so we got one AI going south while others are going up. Near, our third biggest loser. We also got Flare, Phantom, Floki, Aptos, kind of rounding out some of our biggest losers of the day. But that's enough of the markets as a whole. More red than green today. But do we have some bullishness on the horizon? T-Shroom, let's get into some of those news stories.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the biggest one here is going to be, the three decentralized platforms to merge AI tokens and create an AI alliance. Just kind of cutting to the chase here. FET.ai, the native token of the AI-focused Web3 platform, will become ASI, Artificial Superintelligence, with a total supply of around 2.63 billion tokens and a starting price of $2.82. The native tokens of decentralized AI network SingularityNet and Ocean will merge into ASI, both at conversion rates of around 0.43 to 1. ASI will have a fully diluted market cap of around 7.5 billion. So they've got the math right. The wizards over there in the AI realms of crypto they're looking at each other. They're saying, you know what? Why are we competing against each other? Let's just all merge and come together. So, Caleb, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think this is the right move for these three different operators, or should they have remained competitors?
So I have a few thoughts on this. I think trading AI tokens has probably been the biggest source of alpha that I've had over the last 6 months, and FET and Render are kind of the two that come to the top of my mind. In the middle of last year, I did some analysis that basically made me rule out Ocean as a tradable asset. And if you want to go over to my screen here, this chart explains why. So in blue, we're looking at the relative performance of Fetch AI versus Ocean. And then I've overlaid total 3x stablecoins in green. Wow. And so what this is showing is that when total 3 is rising, aka when we're in a bull market, Fetch AI outperforms Ocean. The blue line is going up also. When we're in a consolidation in altcoins, the green line is going down. Guess what happens? Fetch AI underperforms Ocean, right? And so because I've had a bullish bias, why would I want to own Ocean if it's going to underperform FET in a bull market? I wouldn't, right? So, this chart is continuing to be effective even today, over the past several months, over the past several quarters. It's been in effect almost perfectly since the beginning of 2023. And I don't necessarily think that's a coincidence. Why is it happening? I have no idea. But clearly, if you want to bet on an AI token this bull market, Fetch has been the massive outperformer relative to Ocean. As they combine now, essentially, I'm a little bit interested to see, does Ocean now anchor FET's performance a little bit more, right? As they're kind of combined under the same token group. I think if you're an investor, you have to be excited. This pivot to artificial superintelligence as the main name is going to catch a lot of eyes, a lot of attention. And I think if you're looking for something the key narrative within the super cycle, let's not call it a super cycle, but the key narrative for this bull market cycle, AI has already been the winner. And I think this kind of reduces the barriers to entry for a lot of new market participants to say, oh, what's the new AI token? Oh, super artificial intelligence, right? Or artificial super intelligence, whatever it's called. It doesn't matter, right? It literally doesn't matter, but the name is going to catch people's attention. So I think that's interesting. So I think as an investor, as a trader, you should be excited. You should be interested. Is this going to be a little bit of a local top for the AI coins? It's a little bit on my radar today. I think we're seeing some of these names pull back. I'm not going to lie though. Before we hopped on this call, I added to my fetch position at 301. So it's already down a little bit. I saw you when you were pulling up the charts. It's trading at like 299. But dips are for buying.
Yeah,
Very nice.
Absolutely. It's funny. I'm in the same boat. I didn't own any fetch. I will say I did own some AJAX. I'm big on AJAX. I know you didn't really talk about AJAX as much. I kind of am sitting here looking at this merge thinking I think it's a really good plan. Ultimately, remember they said that when this launches, if it launches, because of course it's not official just yet, but it should come out, and this could go even higher than this because the coins can keep acquiring more value. It should come out somewhere around 7.2 billion, which right now would make it good enough, according to CoinMarketCap, to hit number 21 in value, the number 21 ranked coin. 2 spots behind Near Protocol right now, the number 1 AI crypto token, of course, above Render, who's currently sitting at 31. I think this could be a really interesting move for everyone, but I do think when you're saying which holders benefit the most from this move, is it AJAX holders? Is it Fetch holders? Is it Ocean holders? It's absolutely Ocean holders. If I did a video this afternoon where we look at all 3 of these coins, all 3 of them. Now I can't guarantee this is going to happen, but all 3 of them are sitting in bull flag patterns, right? So that means the momentum that we've had more recently in the last couple of months, we could see a breakout where we duplicate that explosion. Well, when it comes to Ocean, we see about 121% explosion, right? That's pretty good. That's a good day. We're more than doubling the price action. But when you compare that to what we've seen in Fetch and we've seen in AJAX, they have all more than, they'll both have gone 300%. So a 4x is what we're looking at over here. So I think you're going to see this trifecta come in. It's going to be a great move for crypto, great move for AI. But ultimately, it's almost like the 2 cool kids are hanging out and someone's little brother said, can I join? And their mom told them they have to let little brother in. That would be Ocean Protocol at this point. Ocean holders, you are about to win big because you're going to be catapulted. Your value is going to go up exponentially in this bull market because you're attaching yourself to 2 of the best performing AI tokens in a bull market where AI, at least so far, has seemed to be king in this little rally.
Absolutely. Well, one thing to make sure that we are noting is that at this point in time, this merger is just a proposal. So the nodes will have to vote, but it is proposed. The entity plans to create an open, decentralized AI infrastructure at scale as compared to existing systems whose inner workings may be hidden from the public, the companies say. So my overall take on this is that it's very bullish, right, for the space to see cooperation and moving forward and consolidation. In the stock market world, this is an M&A move, right? Merger and acquisition. That's not something that you see a ton of in crypto, which is really interesting. So the fact that some big names, are putting down their weapons aimed at each other in competition and saying, "Hey, let's all get together and we'll work out the details. It's going to be messy, but we're gonna join forces and conquer and bring excellent service to Web3, that is a really, really good sign. Now, unfortunately for me, though, what I'm sitting here thinking is, so how does this go? Because if they don't vote for the merger, that could be messy, right? And that could send the opposite signal to investors looking out crypto from the outside saying, oh, these projects don't really get along well. They can't vote, correctly. And so hopefully there aren't any hiccups. Hopefully from here, it's a smooth sailing to the merger. All the votes go seamlessly and everything like that. Any kind of hiccups, of course, will be seen through a cynical lens from outside investors, especially from the likes of Peter Schiff, folks who aren't really, they're looking at anything that they can throw at the decentralized movement in crypto. But overall, very bullish. There are some opportunities here where this could go wrong. and we'll see. But I think this is going to be a big moment for crypto to see, these giants kind of coming together. I really shouldn't say giants because they're not giants, but mid-sized, well-respected projects coming together and merging. I think it has a huge opportunity for upside.
It's like the three dwarfs that stand on top of each other's shoulders and the one wear the big trench coat so they're a really tall man.
Yeah, that's an excellent example, Tim. I think that's what's on the mind of every Wall Street analyst at this point in time.
I want to say one more thing. Another reason why I'm really bullish on this is because it's something that you alluded to, T-Shirt, but I'll take it a step further. They're putting their swords down because they're competitors. These three are competitors in the AI world. They're putting down the weapons, and instead of choosing to compete, they're saying, let's put our minds together to create something like a superpower here, right? And that to me tells me the top priority is not necessarily making the most money because they could probably make more money working by themselves. Now they have to share and spread it out, right? But it tells me that these are people committed to actually accomplishing and building something that will really work and change the world forever. Those are the types of things you want to invest in. We talk about like Amazon back in the day when Amazon was down 90-something% and everyone's like, what are you going to do here? It's broken. And what's his name? Who's the former owner? I'm blanking on his nim.
Jeffrey Bezos.
Bezos. He said, I know what I have here. It's worth more than what the stock market said. Of course, crazy. Him and his family were the majority owners there. Of course, it blows up. They're now some of the wealthiest people in the world. But he had the focus of, I'm not looking at the price action. I'm not looking at the stocks. I'm not looking at the valuation. I'm looking at the value that I'm looking to build here. And he built it into Amazon, one of the greatest companies worldwide. You have similar things throughout crypto, but I think that's what we're looking at right here is another, hey, forget the money for a second. Let's actually build the best thing that will work and change the world for forever. Those are the types of projects you want to be investing in early because those are the teams that are not going to make the stupid moves based off of what stock or money is saying. They're going to make the best moves based off of what makes the product the best. I love that, and that's why I'm a big believer in this new ASI.
Yeah, absolutely.
If it happens, because it hasn't happened yet. So
right, and they've got to vote on it. But Tim, I'm glad you pointed out that Ocean has the most to benefit. Again, gonna kind of hold over from the stock market world. Usually, whenever there's M&A, it's usually the smaller company that stock price is going to go up, and actually the bigger company stock price comes down. Why? Because the bigger company has more resources, and the expectation is that they're going to shake that tree of resources, and they're all going to fall down to the smaller company. They're going to pick them up and just build a better business. Right. Yeah. Well, if I'm a shareholder of the bigger company, right, I might think twice and say, I'm going to go to the competitor of Pepsi. I'm going to go over to Coke because Pepsi's not taking a risk on buying a new startup. Right. Coke is just chugging along their business as usual. I'm going to take my money over there, and so you will see the price come down actually for the bigger companies. That'll be interesting to see if that happens in crypto as well. Of course, making an assessment like that is better over a couple of months of analysis rather than the day because we got to get all the bugs and the jitters out. Anything else, Caleb, on this merger? I mean, it's big for crypto. Is there anything about this that has been unsaid?
Two things that's just kind of building on what you guys have already said, but there, what Tim was saying really reminded me of the phrase, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So I think that's what we're really seeing here. I think one other thing that I'd like to say, look, I would probably lean towards this being somewhat of a local top for AI tokens. Again, that's a local top, not a major top, right? So maybe that leads to a 5% pullback. Maybe that leads to another 15, maybe 20. I have no idea. But look at FET today. It's already down more than 10% from its intraday highs. Clearly, we've hit somewhat of a local top. So maybe that's the worst of it. Who knows? But what I would like to say on top of that is the fact of what you were saying, T-Shroom, that these nodes need to vote. There's a risk objectively that this does not go through, which you could therefore argue then means that it's not priced in, right? That the max upside here is not priced in because the market is a discounting mechanism and it's pricing in some percent chance that this does not get approved. So if you believe that this does get approved and you view it as a long-term bullish catalyst, pullbacks are probably for buying.
Yeah, that's what it seems like to me. And full disclosure, my Ajax bag is the biggest. I actually don't have any FET or any Ocean, right? I was doing the most of my deploying back in October and August and throughout the summer when you ought to be in the bear market. But now it's looking very alluring to potentially open up a leverage trade in one way or another once we get some clarity on how this merger is going to go. I think Ocean, I agree with you all that Ocean probably has the most upside by a percentage basis at this point. But I think all of them are going to do very well in this upcoming bull market, especially if they can, figure out a way to get this vote passed and move together as a group rather than as individual projects. We have some more news, and it has to do with the SEC. Caleb, I wanted to ask you, though, before we get into this next story, is there anything that you wanted to show the bros, the audience, just in general? Was there anything that has been on your radar that maybe we hadn't talked about before we went live that you wanted to show?
If you're going to give me the opportunity, I'm going to take it. So,
take it.
let's go over some Bitcoin stuff, guys.
Let's do it.
Look, we're getting a little bit of a pullback today. I think, again, all normal and to be expected types of volatility. I mean, what the heck? We're trading above 68,000. Can we really complain? We shouldn't, right? What I want to show you guys here on this chart is looking at Bitcoin with weekly candles. You guys know how much I love this Williams % R oscillator. I come on here as often as I can and try to reference something interesting that's happening with the Williams % R. What we're looking at here specifically is the 104-week Williams % R oscillator. When we're using weekly candles like this chart, that comes out to a 2-year period of analysis. So I think that's a really good indication of either a medium or long-term trend. With something like crypto and Bitcoin, I would lean more towards it being a long-term trend indication. And the thing that I want to point out here is very similar to what happened in Q4 of 2020. We have, I'm just vaguely referring to this as an ABC thrust, right? So essentially the Williams % R oscillator became overbought here. It cooled down. We had this consolidation, and then we had another thrust back above the peak at point A at point C, right? And that essentially sparked the exponential run to the upside, right? And certainly within that exponential run, we had these periods of sideways consolidation. We had these periods of deeper consolidations, so on and so forth. And so what are we seeing in the present day? We're seeing that exact same signal happen, flashed officially in early February of this year. And what have we seen since then? We've seen perhaps the start of this exponential run, hitting new all-time highs for Bitcoin before the halving. That's never happened before in Bitcoin's history. And what are we seeing right now? We're seeing a little bit of this sideways consolidation, very consistent with price action that happened in Q4 of 2020 after point C flashed as well. So I just kind of want to remind folks that, the market dynamics that we're continuing to experience, even in that deeper pullback last week and the week before, are very consistent with, first of all, past bull markets, past times that we've initially hit new all-time highs. And generally speaking, we're continuing to see bull market dynamics take place, right? Would I have liked to have seen a more decisive thrust above these all-time highs and seeing maybe a couple of weeks of follow-through extension? Of course, right? But, I don't want to be too picky and choosy, right? One of my favorite phrases in investing is, and life, generally speaking, is don't let perfect be the enemy of good, right? We're still seeing good, AKA bullish price action, right? Is it perfect? No, because we've had 3 weeks of sideways consolidation with a little bit of pain. But I don't want it to be confused. We're still seeing bullish price action take place.
Absolutely. I love it. And it's during a time, I'll point out, as we've been reporting here on the Investing Bros, just above Caleb, you'll see here, it's been happening, this price movement higher has been happening throughout a period of outflows, net outflows for the spot ETFs for Bitcoin. So, imagine what it can do when those inflows come back. I think 75,000 is back on the table and will be careening there in no time. But we do have a little bit of a speed bump to go over on the way, which brings us to our next story. Tim, we'll be getting into this one here. This is the SEC lawsuit against Coinbase as it's moving forward here. And Decrypted.co is asking, how bad is it? Well, at the forefront, I'm gonna tell you guys, it doesn't seem all that bad, but it isn't a clear cut that this is going to go in Coinbase's favor at all. Regulators' arguments against the crypto exchange are largely plausible. So what the SEC is bringing to the U.S. judicial system, the judicial system is saying, okay, your claims are plausible here against Coinbase, permitting the case to proceed and denying Coinbase's motion to dismiss it in its entirety. That's obviously would have been the home run for crypto, right? For Coinbase to just say, hey, this case sucks, the SEC doesn't know what they're talking about, and then for the judge to say, you're completely right, Coinbase. Goodbye, SEC. That is not what we got. And there's more details. On two major claims, Judge Fiala allowed the SEC's case against Coinbase to proceed. Those two are that Coinbase operates as an unregistered security exchange for retail and institutional investors. That is a big one, right? And that's both sides, retail and institutional. The second one is that its crypto staking programs constitute additional offerings of unregistered security. So it's continuing to defy the U.S. securities law. The one that was thrown out, there was one that was thrown out, was that Coinbase is essentially a broker-dealer. It's not a broker-dealer, says this judge. So on this case here, this is somewhat, big. It's a, what would you call this? An administrative move forward, right? Because it's not kind of ruling on substance of the kind of the criminal indictments here, of the criminal charges on Coinbase. Really, what it's saying is that Coinbase, no, you do not get to throw out the whole case in its entirety. So, Tim, I want to throw it to you first. What is your reaction to this? Is this a bigger blow than the market is letting on? Coinbase really only down, I think, as much as 3% today, which for Coinbase, not that much, the stock. But is there something here a little more sinister? Should we be more worried than the market is?
No, the truth is this is not really that big of a deal. Ultimately, the judge didn't make a clean ruling. It would have been nice to see the judge say, yeah, no, we're dismissing this case. This is ridiculous. They didn't get that. That's not what we get. Ultimately, what the judge just said is, there's enough here to say that maybe some of these coins could be securities. I'm not ruling they are or they aren't. I'm just saying there's enough to allow this to go to trial. There's a tweet that Brian Armstrong put out, of course, CEO of Coinbase, he said, I can't wait for the hilariously bad takes in mainstream media on this ruling today. If any particular good ones, please post screenshots. So you're going to have a lot of FUD today, guys. A lot of FUD saying massive win for the SEC. Coinbase is in trouble. First of all, Coinbase is not in trouble. They just asked, hey, Judge, can we dismiss the case? And the judge is like, no. And they're like, okay, well, we'll just win it the fair way then. We'll just go after it the normal way. Also, remember, they got the backing of good old BlackRock. Coinbase. If anyone's feeling bad for Coinbase, don't feel bad for them. They are still sitting squarely where they need to be. Just didn't get the W today in terms of getting the case thrown out. Ultimately, I'm still not worried about coins that obviously get the spotlight of the security accusations. We're talking about the Cardanos and the Solanas, and I believe Matic has been thrown in there. There's several altcoins, mainstream altcoins. Yeah, thank you for this. This is the list that they put there. I'm really not worried. I can't say every single one of this chart because I haven't looked into every single one, but I'm not worried about the big players here, right? We're talking about some pretty minuscule coins that are a lot lower that, to me, I think potentially could be deemed securities later on down the line. As a whole, though, the SEC has not won. Anyone saying the SEC won is not true. They had nothing to do with this. They have proposed a lawsuit that they've done now time after time after time, not winning a single one of them. And the judge is just pretty much saying, you know what? If you want to keep spending money and take this to trial, let's do it. Let's go to trial. That's open and shut what this case really was. Caleb, tell me if I'm wrong there, if you got a different take from the articles today.
Look, I stay out of the legal stuff just because, first of all, since I've been following and watching crypto, there's always been this massive legal overhang. And over time, we've seen that regulatory environment become more clear, a more refined path going forward, right? And so every few months, every quarter, several times a year, we're seeing these types of announcements. We're seeing judges, we're seeing cases, we're seeing new things, old things being rehashed, extensions, new filing, whatever the case is. It's just, in my opinion, a lot of it's drama that doesn't really help us be better investors or traders at the end of the day. It's something that is impactful for current price action. And I think today's dynamics are proof positive of that. If you're a Coinbase shareholder and you're down more than 3.5% today, while something like ARC-F, where Coin is one of the top holdings in that fund, I think is only down like 1.5%. Let me double check that really fast. 1.2%. Clearly Coin is underperforming, right? The general industry for fintech overall. And so I think unequivocally this case has a lot to do with that. If you want to go to my screen here really quick, T-Shroom, here's a chart of Coinbase in linear scale since the company IPO'd. And guys, all of this structure is stuff that I've been outlining in real time over on Twitter. And so, maybe I had a few more lines on this chart, but nonetheless, these are the key levels to be watching, right? And, essentially observe this breakout, retest, rebound in real time, leaving this accumulation zone. This was beautiful structure, even though the stock fell from 187 down to basically 110. This was a brutal decline, but if you bought that decline, you're up magnitudes, up almost 2.5x, right? So I think this is super clear. And guess what? We just had another breakout over a much larger accumulation range, going back to the original IPO base, former support, flipped into resistance, blasted right through that breakout, rebound, breakout, retest, rebound, right, to new cycle highs. So I think right now this is very loose risk management, but I think you have to be bullish objectively on Coinbase stock so long as it stays above this green range, which basically means stay above 200. You should be okay. But I understand when we're trading at 260, that's a steep decline to get down to 200. So it's a tough stop loss. But I think a lot of investors who are maybe listening to this live, or after the fact, are probably long coin in terms of equity market exposure, in addition to what they're already long in the crypto market specifically. So I think we should all be pleased at the structure. I'm not in coin. I've been playing crypto related equities through MicroStrategy. And look, coin is underperforming MicroStrategy today as well, right? Underperforming Bitcoin. So clearly this is providing a little bit of an overhang, a little bit of a catalyst for investors to sell out. But hey, maybe that's just weak hands kind of getting cleansed from the shareholder base.
Absolutely. I don't know offhand when the next earnings report for Coinbase is going to be, but this is going to be the earnings report for the spot ETFs, right? Because Coinbase is now providing custody services to, out of the issuers here on my chart, I believe they're providing at least half custody services. So this will be the first earnings report that Coinbase gets all of that revenue reflected. Now there could be a disappointment there because the market, has high expectations. Like sitting here, I'm excited. I can't wait to see, how this is going to affect Coinbase's bottom line as a stockholder. But I could be disappointed, and we could see that reflected in the price. I'm sitting here thinking it's probably going to be very bullish, just like these ETFs have been. They totally knocked out of the park Wall Street's expectations in terms of inflows. So it's certainly exciting when we're looking at how this could all pan out. But Tim, I saw you kind of poking around on some charts there. Was that a Coinbase chart you wanted to pull up?
No, I was actually just mimicking, first of all, some of the stuff that Caleb had drawn there. You can share my screen here, and I'll show you the next one. Obviously, he talks about this double top we have back here. We're on a linear chart. So if anyone's looking at a logarithmic chart, and you're like, oh, that doesn't really look like how mine looks, turn it linear for a second. Of course, this zone he's talking about right here got some double tops. Obviously, like right now, where we rejected here, you guys can see a big blue candle today, but look at the zone of where we're rejecting. Look at how many resistance levels we had back here in August 2021, also back here in December 2021. This is going to be the next level. So it may be rejection right now, but when we break through that, take an eye, there's really nothing else stopping us from coming up here back towards you're not going to call these all-time highs because technically speaking, like this chart shows, it opened up way up here. But for all intents and purposes here, we really should call getting above 368 being an all-time high because literally the moment Coinbase launched, it just fell and it bounced back up to this level. That was really the level where the markets decided, all right, this is the top here. Let's go ahead and get into a bear market. Let's cool price off. So for me, I think we're kind of in the spot right now, even based off what Caleb's chart was showing and just going a little further. We're at the last hurdle for Coinbase before we really should be looking at new all-time highs, which could be exciting. And like I said earlier, don't bet against Coinbase. They got too many allies. There's too much going for them. We had a conversation the other day in the office. Ultimately, you can have your problems with Coinbase one way or the other, but you know what Coinbase just does better than any other crypto company? They make their tools very easy to use when you don't know anything about crypto. Like if you've been orange pilled by your friend and you're like, let me go buy some Bitcoin. There's not an exchange that walks you through the process easier, faster, quicker, painlessly as Coinbase. They're going to continue to win because they are the easiest on-ramp for noobs in the crypto space. Even if those of us who have been around the block here or there know, oh, there's better places to be holding your crypto. There's better places to be buying and selling and yada, yada, yada. That's not the case for noobs. And guess what's about to happen at this stage in the bull market? We're about to have millions and millions and millions of new investors come into space. Coinbase stock looks pretty.
It's also the best place for institutions, right? So not only are they the most retail friendly, but they're the most institutional friendly as well. Just to add on to that, Tim.
Good point. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I agree.
And that does kind of show how big the stack of chips are here for this case with the SEC and Coinbase. It's like, so far we've seen a resounding win, right, for crypto on the side of the U.S. judicial system, right? SEC has pretty much got mud in their face every time that they've tried to go against this industry. The U.S. judicial system has said, not so fast, SEC. You need to slow your roll, right? So it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out, and I'm definitely not taking my eyes off it. What I will say, though, Tim, is another thing that Coinbase is good at is accurately displaying the balance of what you have in your Coinbase account. We're just kidding. All right, we're getting into another ETF story here. Was there any last things that wanted to be mentioned before we move away from Coinbase?
I think we got some more topics and more. I want to save space today again for Q&A. We only get Caleb once a week, so definitely want the chat to be able to ask Caleb all of the questions they can. So I think this is getting to our last story, or is there a couple more?
This is going to be our last story. Yeah, I mean, it could be a little bit of a thickie, or we could move on. We do have a factoid of the day. It's a juicy one.
We have factoid of the day as well, too.
We don't want to miss that today. Keep me honest on that, chat, in case we get close to the end and I forget. But Fidelity files for spot Ethereum ETF with staking. So this is today, and they had teased this, and I think they had kind of they brought their application out of the filing process, but now they are boldly taking a huge step forward and making it happen here. I will point out, in contrast, stark contrast, Polymarkets, the crypto betting service, is still predicting a very low chance. Very low chance of the Ethereum ETF being approved by May 31st, which is it's after the major due dates for the deadline for the SEC to approve whether or decline the Ethereum spot ETF. So with this in mind, Fidelity taking a huge step forward, not just filing, but also adding staking, which adds a whole nother dynamic that I'm going to be honest with you guys, do not have my head around at all how that's going to work in an ETF. I would assume it works similarly to how maybe a dividend strategy ETF might work, but I'm not sure. So Tim or Caleb, is there anything you feel confident about with this? Is this going to move markets for Ethereum back to the upside? Is Fidelity boldly applying here kind of a signal to the market, hey, this thing is back on? Because what we've seen over the last couple of weeks is that the momentum for this has dwindled to abysmal 17% chance on the betting markets. But that's just the spread. Is there something maybe that the markets aren't seeing?
Is there another date? Is there another date that we're proposing as the next level after May 31st yet?
Nope. No, it's just going to be kind of this nebulous question of who gets in on the lawsuit. Yeah.
Go ahead, Cal. You can give your take, and then I'll go after.
I'm curious because I thought, I'm looking at the headline here from March 18th. Fidelity adds staking to their ETH ETF application in amendment. So how is this announcement different than what we saw 9 days ago?
It's a good question. So getting into the details, it's the S1 form for the spot Ethereum ETF with staking included. So to me, that means that they've basically taken the next step in
upgraded step.
I see.
Essentially, exactly. Yeah. So is it a new submission? Is it an alteration or a modification? No, it's a next step. So it's the S1 filing.
Yeah. So it sounds like then in that case, Fidelity has received more confidence from their conversation with the SEC somehow that moving forward with the staking as part of the ETF doesn't necessarily probably change their chances for approval or rejection. That's my best guess. So that's interesting. This is a whole new form, a whole new step in the process beyond an existing amendment that was attached to prior application within the process. So look, I think this is interesting. And the one thing I've been talking about with people in my circle is, and I've been doing this publicly as well, but this, and maybe we even talked about it on the show recently, but one of the things I said is one thing that Wall Street loves more than anything else is yield, right? And with Bitcoin, you can't necessarily generate that yield on a spot Bitcoin ETF. Maybe you could if you're selling like covered calls, like YieldMax does with different option strategies, so on and so forth. But with ETH, if they're holding it in cold storage and then maybe transferring some to stake, I don't even know how all that stuff is necessarily going to work in terms of the logistical aspects, but making that seem more alluring for investors on Wall Street from an institutional standpoint, like, hey, we can go out and get crypto exposure, and beyond Bitcoin, what we can do is actually generate yield on this Ethereum, right? Like that's going to attract a lot of institutional investors. So,
Absolutely.
whether or not it improves the odds of approval or lowers the odds of approval, I have no idea. My best guess though is Fidelity wouldn't have gone through with this on the new filing beyond the existing amendment that they had already done if they thought it was going to lower their chances of approval. Why would they do that? It makes no sense. Mm-hmm. So the fact that it's still on there is probably a good sign, right?
Yep. Yeah. So a couple of things here. I'm now, it's coming back to memory, kind of the steps that was leading up to this. So my hunch is that Fidelity has taken this next step, kind of in preparation for a court case, is my opinion. Because I do think, and I agreeing with Polymarket here on the betting odds, is that this isn't what gets it across the finish line. I think what Fidelity is doing here quite intelligently, in my opinion, is that they're going ahead and saying, hey, if we're going to have to bend down and get spanked here, right, if we're going to get told no by the SEC, we might as well go ahead and take another scoop out of the cookie jar, right? So that when we do inevitably win this case against the SEC, we're not only going to get our cake, we're going to be able to eat it too. We're going to have staking as well. And that is a huge part of the conversation, as you said, Caleb, because that does bring in that yield part of what is missing from the Bitcoin ETFs. And it is an excellent point because it's one of the main reasons cited by Vanguard's CEO and previous CEO and current CEO as why they refuse to be friendly to the Bitcoin spot ETFs. It's because it does not throw off a yield, which is what they want for their strategy for their clients. So I think Fidelity knows what they're doing here. They're not dumb. They've dealt for many years with the SEC, and I think what they're doing is they're setting up for the court case. It's going to say, hey, if you're going to take us to court anyway, if this is going to a legal battle, we might as well ask for more than we're already asking for, so that we'll at least get what we want, right? Maybe that's kind of the posturing they're setting up for here. I'm not exactly sure, but the fact that they've submitted this S1 kind of tells me that with some level of confidence, they're moving towards this, at least expecting that legal battle, probably not expecting an approval. Tim, what are your thoughts?
Are they really,
go ahead,
quick?
go
Are
ahead,
they the
Caleb.
only firm who have applied with staking as part of the application?
I believe so. Yeah.
Because I mean, we also have BlackRock. We have 21 shares. We have
Grayscale,
obviously Fidelity. We have Grayscale. We have Franklin Templeton. Like it's a lot of the same players, right, from the Bitcoin side. So if Fidelity is the only one doing something like that, first of all, that's interesting. And if there's a clear indication from the SEC that this isn't necessarily going to change the odds of approval, I would probably expect the other firms to follow suit, right? So just want to make that last point. Sorry, Tim.
Well, it's so interesting, right, to watch this evolution. But Tim, what are your thoughts here on this?
No, T-Shirm, I don't think that you are far off with some of the things that you said. First of all, let's go back to the evolution of the Bitcoin filings. That didn't happen overnight. And we thought that the precedents, let's go back to the predictions we made on this channel back in January. We get the approval of Bitcoin ETF. We remembered all the hiccups. Some people predicted, oh, well, maybe we're going to have the same type of hiccups with Ethereum. And we said, no, like now there's a precedent set by Bitcoin ETF. It should be smooth sailing, with the exception that Gary tries to pull some sort of crap like calling Ethereum a security. Well, guess what? That's exactly what happened. But I think what Fidelity's aware of right now is that, okay, we've been here before. We've been at the absolute nonsense of the SEC when it comes to the Bitcoin ETF. We're just going through the same stages. I'm calling bluff. Maybe we don't get it by May 31st, but that's why I asked earlier, if there's another date on the horizon? Because at this point, it's looking very much like, even if Gary Gensler and his whole group at the SEC changed their mind and said, yeah, shoot, let's go ahead. Let's start working with Ethereum filers. We're running out of time for them to get the details done for May 31st to be the actual date to get it approved by. I think Fidelity knows that. I think they're riding the momentum of news that broke yesterday, obviously, where the CFTC made a big step by calling it a commodity in their lawsuit against KuCoin. I think there's momentum building here, and Fidelity saying, we're going to take the step forward in faith, knowing we went through the same crap with Bitcoin. If we have to write it out again, that's fine. We're just going to get out ahead of it for now. And ultimately, I think something Caleb said is right, too, is like, hey, no one else has filed this. What if this is the move to say, all right, let's file first, and then let's get these other entities to file with us and apply even more pressure on SEC? They got their back up against the wall with Coinbase right now. They don't want these problems either. This could just be a power move from Fidelity trying to call Gary Gensler and the SEC's bluff.
That's what it looks like to me. And I will say it's not completely clear. It's not like I'm saying that with like a super high degree of certainty that that's what is going on here, but that's what it appears to be from me. That's what it looks like from my vantage point. Caleb, any more thoughts on this one? Because I do have 1.5 more stories that I wanted to get with you on.
Oh, so you lied to us earlier. You said this was the last story.
My thoughts are I just bought more ETHE, literally just right now. So
Very
if you saw me
nice.
looking down, I apologize, but the market's only open for another 15 minutes. I had to pull trigger. So,
you know, we approve purchases of crypto during the show.
Yeah, exactly. This is the place to do it. If any place is the place, right? So look, if you want to go to my screen here, ETHE as of yesterday's market close is trading at a 22% discount to net asset value.
Wow.
This was at like 12% just a few weeks ago. Yeah, I mean, at the beginning of March, this was a 9, 10%, -9, -10% discount to NAV. So, I don't know. I'm feeling good about this. I've been building out a position over the course of like the last week and a half or so, and just buying a little bit every day. So I hadn't done it yet. Figured now was a good time. And again, it's like if you're reading off Poly Market or something like this, giving it a 17% approval rating. Guys, like BlackRock does not lose. So even if they lose like this time, right? What about later this year? What about the beginning of 2025? I don't know how all of that stuff works in terms of getting things across the finish line, but buying ETHE within a bull market for me personally sounds like a good idea. So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's almost like you're buying the dip, which is a very novel concept. No.
Yeah.
You don't need to. How many superhero movies do you need to watch to know that BlackRock at the end of this one is going to win? Right? If it wants a spot Ethereum ETF, it may take a little while, maybe a little longer than the protagonist would have liked, right? But it's going to get it. Now, okay. So
are we calling BlackRock a superhero here, T-shirt?
I am doing nothing of the kind. All I'm saying is that I enjoy a good movie.
On Wall Street, they are. On Wall Street, they are.
All right. So this one's for the central bank nerds who we have some here on the screen right now. The world central bank no longer have any negative interest rates. If you compare this to the interest rates back in 2014, there were negative symbols all across this list in Europe and all across Asia and on down the line. There are now 0. And that is as of last week, the Bank of Japan has ended its negative rate policy that it's had, I believe, for a decade, if not longer. But just kind of in general, Caleb, not going too deep here. Do you think that this negative interest rate change, so now going positive, do you think this is significant, especially on the heels of the first cut from this list we got last week from the Swiss National Bank? The Swish. They're changing their name.
Like the Nike swoosh?
Exactly. Do you think that do you think there's any significance to this movement where the Bank of Japan comes out of negative in the same week that the Swiss National Bank does the first cut of any central bank of significance? And I may be reading too far into this, so the answer could absolutely be no.
Look, it doesn't matter to me personally. I think if you're an investor, you should really just be focused on the Fed. You should probably know a little bit about what the Bank of Japan is doing, a little bit about what the ECB is doing. But at the end of the day, it's the Fed, and the Fed leads, right? And so, look, I mean, just the fact that the Bank of Japan just recently started raising interest rates, just left negative territory. I think aside from the Bank of Japan, there might have been, I know for a fact the Swiss National Bank also had negative interest rates. There might have been one other. I don't want to say
I think the ECB did.
Oh, I think you're right on that. Yeah. You're right. 100%. So, that era for now is in the rearview mirror. But I promise you it's going to be coming back.
There we go. And that's valuable because that's not something that people are talking about. It's like these are huge financial weapons, just potential energy out there in the economy that could very easily, just through the power of persuasion, human brains, unlike Ethereum, especially unlike Bitcoin, unlike so many blockchains, humans that are sitting behind the reins of these institutions, they could flip a switch. The World Economic Forum can make a call, right? And they just suddenly they want to lower interest rates and they're all back to zero. That has a huge, huge impact on the global economy. Obviously, I'm not predicting that could happen or is going to happen soon. But it could happen. So I will say it could happen, and that would have significant consequence. Okay, we spent too much time already on the Bank of Japan headline. I'm very extra gassed up about it because I watched a documentary about that last night that CNBC made. It was actually pretty cool, kind of highlighting the road that Japan has been on. If you just search CNBC Japan interest rates, it'll probably be one of the first ones, but it was on YouTube. They just kind of chronicle, ever since the post-economic miracle after the, I think it was the Second World War, when the United States kind of stepped in and said, "Hey, this is what capitalism and democracy looks like." Japan, it's been quite a whirlwind, but it's been characterized by wild deflation for the Japanese currencies there. And we've spent even more time on it now, but
no, we gotta double down on this. One of the best books I read in college was about the monetary policy history of Japan, and the whole book was dedicated to that topic. And so, as a macro nerd in college, that was literally the pinnacle of my college experience.
Yeah.
But okay, now we've done enough.
I love it. All right, one more headline. We'll open it up to Q&A. Layer 2 blockchain Mantles token hits all-time high as reward system goes live. So that's the news, sending Mantles price much, much higher. Let us know your questions, and we will give you some answers, bros. What are you thinking?
Yeah, go ahead and post your questions. T-Shroom, it's time for the Factoid of the Day, everyone's favorite section of the show.
Absolutely. Well, today's Factoid of the Day brought to you by none other than iTrust Capital. Tim and Caleb, which U.S. president appointed Catherine Polk Fia? You may recognize from today's main story here.
Is that how you say her name? Fia?
I don't know.
Falia?
I'm not sure.
It
but
doesn't matter what your name is. No, I'm kidding.
You can't handle the truth.
Yeah.
Which president appointed her? Was it Obama? Was it George W.? Was it Donald Trump? You may have heard of some of these names, guys. And then Joe Biden. Which U.S. president appointed Catherine Polk Fia, who is presiding over the Coinbase v. SEC case?
Yeah. We also, by the way, we have a super chat we're going to read after this. But go ahead. Go ahead, Caleb. What do you think?
I'm going to say E. Geo Bowden. Final answer.
Geo Bowden. So this one, I'm going to go... I cannot imagine they're putting a rookie judge on these cases. And I even though technically if you had gone during the time of Donald Trump, that would have made a rookie. I think I'm going to go back to maybe early Obama days, early to mid Obama days. I'm going to go A. I think that a judge running a case like this is going to have some seniority. Is there a picture of her? Can we see? Is that a cheating? Is that a cheat code?
Stand by. I will prepare the picture of Catherine Polk Fia. There she is.
Oh, lovely.
All right. Oh, that's her in 2012, which is when Obama was president.
Not sure if that date has any relevance here to the factoid in question. But okay, Tim, you've locked in Obama. Caleb, do you want to lock in E? Is that your final answer?
I'm actually doubling down on E. Geo Bowden. Yes.
Bowden. With the double down, we have to increase the font size. All right, yes, here we go. So we are going to go ahead and reveal. It is A, Obama. Excellent job, Tim. Now, this does bear some significance in the world of legal, of law and precedent and all of this, because, there's a little bit of politics behind the scene of crypto, and the U.S. government. But I think we've talked about that enough. Let's go ahead and get into our question and answer session. Thank you all so much for participating in today's Factoid of the Day, brought to you by iTrust Capital.
Let's start off with our super chat from Eric Wallen. What's your take on miners lately now that CleanSpark is overperforming Bitcoin again? Anyone? No one has to wait in line.
I'm definitely buying CleanSpark over Bitcoin at this point.
Okay.
Here's what I'm going to say. If you're buying any miner, buy the leader, and the leader this cycle so far has been CleanSpark. Okay. Even with CleanSpark's amazing performance, I've been very vocal on Twitter over the last 2 weeks about rotating out of the miners and transitioning that capital into MicroStrategy full force. And that's what I've been doing. I've received a lot of criticism, a lot of negativity for that position, but the facts are the facts. And MicroStrategy has both outperformed the miners on the aggregate and Bitcoin to a significant degree. Pick your time frame. 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 1 year, 18 months. Take your pick. MicroStrategy has been the winner. The point that I want to make on that is, again, if you're going to buy any of the miners, buy the leaders of the group. So far, it seems like CleanSpark is that leader. The problem is, I know a lot of people who are super bullish on Bitfarms, super bullish on Mara, super bullish on Iris Energy, super bullish on TeraWolf. So those have not been performing well. Those have not outperformed CleanSpark. They certainly haven't outperformed Bitcoin, and they certainly haven't outperformed MicroStrategy. So I think investors need to be really selective when they're taking a look at these miners, and really buckle up for volatility, because history shows us that they're going to be extremely volatile, and we shouldn't expect this time to be any different, especially as we're still 25 days away from the halving. I expect behavior to be a little bit different after the halving, but how much different, I don't know. So for me personally, the miners are pretty much off the table until we get into a post-halving environment.
Okay. So you don't have any miners on your balance sheet?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm out.
That's not a bad move. Not a bad move. I will say I'm completely consolidated into CleanSpark. I had Bitfarms for a while, but I just woke up one morning and I was just like, why? This is not this. The Bitcoin miners, to me, doesn't seem like it needs to be a diversification play. It was early on, but I think the leader has emerged, and I feel pretty confident in that. Tim, what are your thoughts here to Eric Wallen's thoughts?
I mean, you can't argue with the fact over the last couple of days, if you go to my screen here, and forgive the fact that the right side is going to be very ugly gray, because I never really used this split screen.
Come on, Tim.
CleanSpark on the left here, Bitcoin on the right. CleanSpark clearly leading. I mean, setting a new high for this year. It's also drastically far away from former all-time high. When you kind of zoom out here, of course, Bitcoin is right now below previous all-time high, but recently hit new all-time highs, whereas CleanSpark's nowhere close to it. I think you still got some room here with resistance. Now, I must have been on a different chart here. Let me get rid of some of these lines. I think I was on a log chart when I had those lines drawn, and I just
likely story.
As a whole, yeah, that's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. As a whole, I think CleanSpark is performing better right now, and there's potential to sit here and say this could be a sign. I mean, going back to some stuff Caleb talked about earlier, I think in the short term you might have a little bit more to pull back, like on the hour chart, the 4-hour chart. But we're on these longer charts, like the daily and the weekly. There's an argument to be made that CleanSpark kind of shows the explosion of where Bitcoin's about to go. I mean, when Bitcoin dips, like CleanSpark dips heavily and Bitcoin slightly pulls back. CleanSpark will take off like a bottle rocket, and then Bitcoin will lag behind. And so what I'm seeing here with it setting new highs for the year here yesterday and starting to break out, despite the fact that Bitcoin couldn't get back up to 74,000, to me, are we seeing the early signs? Are the miners saying, hey guys, it's time to go again. We had our nice refresh. It's time for the next leg up. Again, does that mean it happens right this second? No. But this to me kind of, I would almost say, like, makes me lean bullish explosion in price action coming for Bitcoin very, very soon. The miners are speaking, and they're setting those mining charts to new highs.
But Tim, my pushback would be the miners aren't saying that. CleanSpark is only, right? So look at Mara, look at Wolf, look at Iron, look at Riot, look at Hut, look at Hive, look at Bitfarms, look at BTBT. None of them look like that. So if you're looking at miners on the aggregate, that's why I mostly look at WGMI. They look totally different.
And my pushback to your pushback is don't say things that disagree with me, Caleb. I'm just kidding. No, my only pushback to your pushback would be, yeah, there's a bunch of other miners not doing well, but is CleanSpark not seen as the cream of the crop when it comes to mining stocks? Should they not be the one that get the heaviest emphasis? I would think so, but it's a valid point that the other miners are not. So maybe we just go sideways. I've said that before, that people might not be ready for boring action. Bitcoin and crypto has been so interesting lately. It's either always going up or going down when you're looking at daily, weekly charts. What if the market's just not quite ready for another 3-month sideways period? Those things happen. It happens historically around the halving events. Guess what? We're about to hit a halving event. I'm not predicting that, by the way, everyone. I'm just saying everyone wants to talk about either a really big pull to the downside or a really big rally to the upside. And in reality, people forget boring sideways happens in Bitcoin markets, believe it or not.
Absolutely. Getting some love here for Caleb from Eric. Thank you, Eric, for that super chat. Let us know, bros, if you have any more questions. in the chat will definitely be hopping on those quickly because there's a dearth, right? There's a scarcity of questions down below. So you can hop on this opportunity. This is an opportunity that will 20x your day.
Your brain. I got a question for Caleb because I made a video yesterday about coins, and these aren't the only ones, but all these coins are in the top 100, and there's 6 coins that I believe, theoretically speaking, still could have 20x's in them. All right, yeah. So go check out the video. 4.6K views. You guys seem to like it. What are some coins on your radar right now, Caleb, that you think potentially are you a believer in still 20x left for certain coins in the market? I guess let me preface this back for a second because there's a couple of layers of questions. What is your level for the top of the total crypto market cap? Currently, we're sitting at about $2.5 trillion. How much higher do we go in terms of total crypto? And then after I get your answer there, we'll kind of break down what that means for the rest of the space.
So I did some analysis. Don't share my screen on this yet, T-Shroom, but I did some analysis on Patreon yesterday, I believe. Here it is. Okay, you can share my screen now. What we're looking at here is Bitcoin market cap plus Ethereum market cap. What I've done is I've drawn a Fibonacci from the former all-time highs down to the bear market lows. We look at a 161.8% extension in logarithmic scale. Gets us to about 4.6 trillion versus today we're trading, at the time I posted this yesterday, trading at 1.83 trillion. That's 4.5x. Or excuse me, 4.5x. Wait, no, hold on. What was the amount? Let's do this live. 4.6 over.
We're doing it live.
1.83. Yeah, we're doing it live. Hold on. That's why I messed that up. Okay, 2.5x, excuse me. Mental math in public, never a good idea. Okay, 2.5x. So if we look at Bitcoin today trading 67,000, multiply that by 2.5x. If we look at Ethereum, wherever that's trading today, I don't even know it off the top of my head, multiply that by 2.5x. That's pretty much a crude measure for how we're going to get to 4.6 trillion in market cap. The thing is, Bitcoin cycles typically can exceed that 161.8% extension. And I'm also assuming that ETH BTC is going to be unchanged in that environment. So if ETH BTC rises, if we complete that 161.8% target extension, if we exceed that target extension, then certainly other coins within the broader crypto ecosystem are going to have a lot of room to run. You can stop sharing my screen there. What I wanted to say is when we think about crypto cycles broadly, in a new bull market, what leads? New cycle coins and then whatever narrative is dominating. So this cycle, the new cycle coins, Sui, Say, Arbitrum, Aptos, Blur. There's maybe a couple others that I can think of. Maybe Mobile, the new thing that came out for the Helium network. Seam is another one.
What do you think about ICP?
ICP is great for the sole fact, like if I was going to pick any new cycle coin that's really going to do well this cycle, it's anything AI, anything data, anything storage related, right? Okay. So you have Filecoin, you have ICP, you can put Fetch in that category. Those are the names that GRT is another one that had a nice little pop this morning. Yeah. AIOZ is a name that we talked about briefly on the show last week. Right. I have an open position in that. Anything that does with data this cycle, I think is going to do extraordinarily well just because that's what's been working both in the market for stocks and for crypto. And for me personally, I think we're going to see another narrative take hold. I just don't know what it is yet, but I think we will have a second narrative. So I'm really doing my best to kind of keep my ear to the ground to keep a pulse on what that upcoming narrative could be. I think we're going to have these mini cycles like we just saw with memes, so on and so forth. But I don't think that that's necessarily going to be the lasting narrative that persists throughout the cycle. I think memes are going to do great just because. But I think like when we look back to last cycle, right? And I'm going on a rant here, so I apologize. I'll cut this off in a second. But when we look back at last cycle, what do we have? We had DeFi and NFTs. What do we have so far this cycle? It's really just been AI. And I think recently it's been memes. So can the meme narrative persist? Maybe. Personally, I don't think it's going to be the dominant narrative to take hold for the rest of the cycle, but it could. So again, I'm just kind of keep my ear to the ground for what that second or maybe third narrative could be.
Well, and I want to make sure the chat also understands this. Memes flourish based off of the success of legitimate projects, meaning if you make a lot of money in something that is legitimately going to build wealth and build products and build a lot, people take those profits and they have fun with them. That's what memes are. Memes going up is a sign that times are good in the crypto space. That means you've been making a lot of money on the real projects. Of course, we made a lot of money on Bitcoin, made a lot of money in AI, made a lot of money in Solana. A lot of these coins just bursting, and we're going to reap the rewards by watching meme coins go nuts. But guess what? Meme coins only pump so that they can later dump. And to, take liquidity. I think you're dead on there, Caleb. Now, I had more questions, but I'll get back to that later because we do have some other questions here from chat. B-Ball Golf 72. And before you go accusing this guy of being a basketball player, it's baseball, Caleb. So calm down. Don't get worked up about that. Baseball Golf 72. Is there a coin, and this is similar to what I was asking, is there a coin you would buy now, then convert into a second coin as alt season comes? Oh, that's a little bit different than I was asking, but interesting question.
Pretty much, is there a coin? Buy Bitcoin and Ethereum now, and then rotate that into alts if alt season comes. I did a post about this on Twitter yesterday, last night. Bitcoin dominance has been flat since the end of October, and during that same period, total 3x stables is up over 160%. So we've already seen the altcoin universe go ballistic, while Bitcoin dominance has been flat, very choppy, making new highs, making lower lows, but generally trending sideways. So this cycle has been very unique already, where we might not necessarily need to see Bitcoin dominance go through a sustained downtrend in order for alt season to be here, right? So I think that's pretty interesting. For me personally, I wouldn't be as aggressive in terms of rotating from one thing to the next based on where we are within a cyclical period, right? It's just trade the trend in front of you, trade the charts and the coins that have the most attractive risk reward setups in that period for the time period that you have in mind. Don't think of it as don't make too many assumptions about where we're going to be in 3 months and where you should rotate to, right? Just trade what's in front of you right now.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. If you look over here, the dominance chart, like you said, we've been boring here since really back in October. October, we peaked. We're thinking everything's good. This one, I was confident we're going to 60%. We're trading sideways now. What I'll say is it's not identical, but look, let's continue to watch. I think Caleb's right here. You still want to hold Bitcoin. Let's see what happens. And ultimately, Ethereum's going to be the one that really gives us a good dip in this. But let's watch for some sustained downward price action in the Bitcoin dominance to feel good about rotating heavily into alts. You want to see some of that pullback because that's when things go berserk. Of course, remember, we talked about this before. We pulled back a little bit after the halving. We peaked early in the bull market in the fall of 2020. We peaked right into January, and then you guys can see it's like a free fall from January. Well, what happened in January? Altcoins went parabolic. So if we repeat last cycle, don't be surprised to see one good surge in Bitcoin dominance once again. Who knows? Maybe we still hit 60%. But after that, I think a free fall. And I think Caleb's dead on. It's not quite time to go berserk with altcoins just yet. Pick up some low prices. That's always a good move. But if you're thinking, man, I'm going to go ham on altcoins right now and forget about Bitcoin, that's not what history says you should be acting like right now. Let's keep going on here.
And I have a third answer to that really quickly.
You do?
Caleb, I think, qualified really, really well, his statement. One thing I will say to kind of give a different perspective as well is buying Ethereum and Bitcoin right now and then waiting until the quote unquote alt season, which is elusive and slightly different every cycle. But generally, buying Bitcoin and then rotating into Ethereum and then rotating into the large caps, thinking Chainlink, thinking Solana this cycle, and then rotating into the altcoins. That's kind of the traditional maximization, right, of your wealth, of your funds. But as Caleb said, and I would kind of co-sign on, is trade the chart in front of you. Trade what you're seeing on YouTube channels that you have a lot of conviction in, and a lot of trust in, the analysts there. But generally, if you have conviction in the coins that you have, hold on to them until the charts are screaming at you that there's better opportunity somewhere else. And if you're not a trader, that's okay too. Just hodl, your strong conviction coins. And if you find out, like in the case of XRP, that maybe it is time to just rotate out on a fundamental level, you may disagree with me on that, especially if you're XRP Army, I get it. But if there is a case like that, and you want to rotate out, then do it as well, right? everything is fine here as long as you're not losing money. If you're losing money in crypto right now, I think you could all agree there's a problem with that. You probably are listening to someone, you're in a chat somewhere, and they are the reason. Or you don't have any business being in trading and finance. You probably need to go back, and try to get back into the early principles of what value is, what scarcity is, and things like that. Would you all agree that if you're losing money in crypto, something's wrong?
You're shorting it. You're a bear, and you've made a lot of wrong moves if you're losing money right now.
It's been hard enough to outperform Bitcoin so far this year, right? I mean, there's a reason why Bitcoin is, first of all, the largest position across all my portfolios and also the largest position in my short-term trading account, right? Bitcoin has been, and it likely will continue to be a massive winner. Yeah, exactly. So if you want to go to my screen here, I'm actually sharing something that looks at where we are within a broader cycle. This is looking, I don't even know how the hell they calculate this.
This is cool.
But essentially showing, so what you could do here is you could switch this to alt season, the index, the monthly or the yearly. I prefer the year just because it really does show us just how significant of the fact it is that we haven't really entered alt season yet, right? Mm-hmm. Like with the bull market kicking off at the beginning of 2023, it's been Bitcoin dominated, right? Mm-hmm. We haven't necessarily seen, look, we're moving closer here since Q4 of last year and going into, the past month or so where altcoins are taking some of that dominance back in a way. But I think this is super interesting. If we go over to the altcoin season index, this showed us briefly that we kind of did get up into that upper bound, but you'll notice this is super choppy, right? So it even showed that we were in alt season in September of 2022. Like, I don't remember alt season in September and August of 2022. I don't know about you guys. So for me, this is too volatile. So for me, I really like this yearly chart much better because it really does show us the actual trend here that's been taking place. And clearly we have not entered alt season yet.
Very cool. Okay, this is a website that we need to know about. This is blockchaincenter.net is what I see in your address bar. But you went to English altcoin season yet.
Sorry.
No worries.
Go ahead.
I'm trying to find. Could you just navigate from the homepage of that website to where you went?
So let's do it. I don't even, dude.
You've got it tabbed.
Yeah, I do. I have it bookmarked. Let's go to this guy. Okay, this takes you to his personal Twitter. I have no idea. Shout out to this guy in Bavaria. Nice. That's sick. So that's probably why it's showing this EN here, is because it would normally be in Deutsch.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. All right, so you go to blockchaincenter.net, you type in your address, just kidding. Then you go to this chart, you go the altcoin season index right here, and then you get what Caleb just walked us through and some other cool tools. Are we affiliated with this website? Not at all. This is just an organic share, guys. Pretty cool. Thank you, Caleb, for showing us that.
Of course.
As we close out, we got rapid fire, yes, no answers only, no details whatsoever, just yes or no. C90 FTW for the win says, do you think Gary Gensler holds his position through the next election? Caleb.
No.
Nice.
T-Shroom.
No, because I still have a bet.
No.
There was one simple rule here. There was one simple rule to this game, and you already broke it. The answer is no. The answer is no. I think that's 3 no's. All right, next question. Do you guys think Ethereum dApp builders are eager to get onto Solana chain, especially in regard to Neon EVM?
Caleb, one more time. Say it one more time.
Do you guys think Ethereum dApp builders are eager to get onto Solana chain, especially in regard to Neon EVM? Caleb?
I'm going to change it to yes. I said no initially, but I'm changing back to yes.
I'm a contrarian. I'm going to say no. All right, next question here. Any chance the cycle ends early since new all-time high was hit early?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. Yes.
Give a guy one rule, and he can't. The answer is yes, it could. All right. I think that's going to wrap up the yes or no's because the other questions we have on here can't be answered by yes or no. It is 4:14. We're going to wrap out today. Thank you so much to Caleb Franzen joining us again. We always have a blast on Wednesdays. If you want to hear more from Caleb, check out the links in the description for his Twitter page. Go follow him, subscribe to his newsletter, and if you're really feeling feisty and you want those killer calls, make sure to join his Patreon. He doesn't give his price predictions to just us normal plebes anymore. You got to be special. Go join the Patreon. Love having Caleb on here. For our members, T-Stream and I are about to jump into our members only stream over on Discord. We'll see you over there. The rest of you, I will see you tomorrow. T-Stream is out for the next 2 days, so you got to deal with me, a one-man show for these 3 p.m. slots. I'm scared. You should be scared. You should come watch. See you guys tomorrow.
Trying to make paper, turn that better to cake. Money like Lego, connect the dots that bank. We are investing bros. We are investing bros. Army pipe, lethal on trade. Entries and exits, worthy of praise. Tim, the professor of the TA. Shouted out loud on the PA. T-Shrooms News got the word. Doing better than what he deserves. Beamer, leave no evidence. Soon fly coop with his dividend. Trying to make paper, turn that better to cake. Money like Lego, connect the dots that bank. We are investing bros. We are investing bros.